Okay.
Good morning and Merry Christmas 2011. Connie Rowe and Reverend
Shellie and Enteen, yes. And we're going to start by me reading an old Christmas carol, O Little Town of Bethlehem. And you can read along with me, of course. You have the words there. We were talking last night about the word Bethlehem and where it comes from. And Beth meaning house and lechem meaning bread. And so there's a lot of symbolism and metaphors and things in the Bible that we're not always aware of. And this is one of them. That this house of bread, it's not a bakery, right? It's really the source of life within us. So when we're reading this Christmas carol, we should understand that these are all about us, that there is nothing external, in my opinion, that we're really speaking about or honoring. We're honoring something that's within us. So, O little town of Bethlehem, how still we see thee lie. Above thy deep and dreamless sleep, the silent stars go by. Yet in thy dark streets shineth the everlasting light. The hopes and fears of all the years are met in thee tonight. For Christ is born of Mary and gathered all above. While mortals sleep, the angels keep their watch of wondering love. O morning stars together, proclaim the holy birth, and praises sing to God the King, and peace to men on earth. O holy child of Bethlehem, descend to us, we pray. Cast out our sin and enter in, be born in us today. We hear the Christmas angels the great glad tidings tell. O come to us, abide with us, our Lord, Emmanuel. You know, and the word Christ, we know, comes from a Latin Greek word for light. And Mary is even an interesting choice of name because that is sorrow, actually, at the root of the word, of the name. Yeah. And also water, having to do with the sea. But it's, so if we look at that idea that there are dark streets, there are dark streets within us, right? And the hopes and fears are in those dark streets, right? But this light is born out of our sorrow, really, isn't it? Because if we weren't seeking or searching for something, we wouldn't find it. You have to ask for something to be given. You have to seek to find. You have to knock, and then the door opens for you. That's the teaching. And so we find this, I think the song is so beautiful, because within our own house of life, we're going to have the birth of the light. All right? And, perhaps maybe even just the idea of this time with the light returning and why we celebrate this particular holiday at this time, in this particular mythology, right? Because it's been in many other mythologies, the idea of the birth of this light, which is going to bring us to a new place. Right? So the meditation that I wanted to give you today before we had our conversation is birthing the light within. And when I do a meditation, I work with something they call Agni Yoga. It's fire yoga meditation. So it's directing light energy. And the principle is that thought creates energy, and energy follows thought. And wherever thought is held, their energy is focused. So what I will do is give you thoughts to have, and then your energy will just follow them. So I'm going to take you to a place that's called the upper room. I'm going to ask you to send your energy there. become aware of this place, which is 6 inches above the top of the middle of your head, so you don't have to take out a ruler and measure it. You just have to think the thought, and your energy will go there, right? And one of the things that we'll do is we'll call the golden light, and what we will also do is invoke consuming fire. And the consuming fire action of light will lift and process any low frequencies that are in the physical body, any low frequencies in your emotional or mental, and will also expand into our field, our large energy field, so that we can clean and clear that, right? And then we'll have our focus for birthing this light within us. All right, so do we seem happily ready to do that? Good. All right. It's really a good idea when you do light meditation to have your feet flat on the floor, get comfortable. You're going to be with your eyes closed and going within. All right. So we do begin by thinking the thought and allowing our awareness to go to that upper room, 6 inches above the top of the middle of the head. And this is an unobstructed place in consciousness where we can contact radiant awareness. And when we do that, we ask that awareness to pour down from the upper room, coming in through the top of our head, and through the crown chakra, and moving throughout our brain. And in the brain are all the nerves that move down into the spinal cord. And so we send this radiant awareness throughout the entire nervous system of our entire body. We just think the thought and let the awareness flow into those nerves, all the way into the fingers and the toes. And when we call this awareness, we actually enlighten our knowing awareness. And that flow continues. And you direct the flow now into your heart. And as the heart beats, this awareness goes throughout your entire circulatory system, everywhere, in your entire physical creation. And this awareness will gather and enlighten your emotional awareness. And a flow of awareness moves also now into the liver and all of your glands. So you don't have to worry about where they are. Just send the thought and it goes. And the glands are great messengers for our body. The glands receive, starting with the pineal gland in the brain. It receives the light and all the information coming in with the light. And then it sends out the messengers and activates everything. So as we gather and enlighten this awareness here in the liver and glands, we illuminate and enhance our sensory awareness. And that continues and grows as you send the thought to bring this radiant awareness into the umbilical region of your body, and from here out, expanding in a great circle, moving to and throughout your energy field. And just send it all the way to the rim, all around you. So you become aware of the field, which is also an intuitive area. And we can think the thought of focusing on the magnetic aspect of our field, which is the left side. And we open that magnetic area, and we release and we return any external energy cords, the dynamic energies of people, attachment to places, creatures, things, and we lovingly send it back where it originates, clearing our own magnetic so that we can receive anew. We feel ourselves lightening as this occurs. And that continues also. We direct our awareness to the dynamic or right side of our field, and we lovingly call our own dynamic energy back from where it is lodged in external people, places, things, creatures. And gently and lovingly we bring it back where it belongs in our own dynamic field. And when we do this, we also become more present in the here and now, where our energy is available to us, consciously, aware. And we can think the thought of letting the dynamic, our own dynamic, merge with our magnetic, so that we create an inner hug and a wholeness. And so that is now. And with our awareness then we go back to the upper room. And we observe that there is a point of light in the upper room, a point of white light. And white is the source of all, it holds all color. And as we observe this point of white light, it becomes a radiating star, a white star that is always there, present and available for us in this unobstructed place. And we send a beam from this place, which is where our higher self also resides. We send beams of this white light out to join with each other. And we also invite lighted beings who wish to come into this meditation with us today to connect through the upper room, the unobstructed. We can bring in people who wish to come that we know, or we can just send that thought. And there's no one that you can't bring in, because in the unobstructed, that's exactly what it is. There's no block and there's no obstruction. Anyone can be with us now. And as well, we can also connect with those beings of the higher dimensions here, those guides and those guardians, in whichever way you see them, the angelic realm, the ascended masters, the great teachers, Jesus, energy, himself. Just send that thought of connecting, and you are connected. And acknowledge that, and say thank you. And now we're going to call forth the gold light from this star. And we're going to allow this gold light to come down and create a dome. We're going to be sitting within the light, and it will be around us. It will be below our feet and all around. And we can expand that golden dome of light to create it filling the entire field of our energy. So it becomes a great sun, a golden sun. And we ask that our feet, the soles of our feet open, and also the sides of our waist and the palms of our hands. And what we do is we invoke the consuming fire aspect of this golden light. The golden light is known as the cosmic Father energy. And one of its great purposes in nourishing us as a father is to transform. And it's a powerful transformation light, so we can use this consuming fire now to draw off into the field energies, into the field fires from our physical body, our emotional nature, our mental nature, and this golden light in its fire aspect will take all the negativity that may be there, any frequency that's negative, pain if it's physical, discomfort, and just burn it in these beautiful golden fires so that it's transformed back to pure energy. Because we've been told and we know that energy is not created and not destroyed. It is. But it goes through frequencies. And we are now just adjusting our frequencies, really, by consuming the lower frequency energies and elevating them back. And that feels good. And again, it just gets lighter and lighter as we lift that frequency by releasing and letting go and freeing ourselves, the freedom to release and let go, which is always available to us. And what we want to do now is to start assimilating this pure energy. So we think of closing the soles of the feet and the sides of the waist, leaving the palms open, and we start to draw in the high frequency, the pure essence of the golden light, of the cosmic Father, Creator energy. That is us. And we can bring it deep within us, into our cells, and the spaces between the cells, which are filled with our life force, or chi. And we fill up, and we actually are a fountain now of golden light as it comes down through our crown chakra and fills back up through us and comes back out the top of the head and down. This wonderful, eternal, unending source. And because it's this particular day, this day of the birth of the Christ light within, we're going to focus our awareness into our heart chakra. Because the great teaching of this Christ light is to love. And to love one another. But also, we must love ourselves. First, we love within ourselves. So as we open our hearts to receive this pure golden light, it fills all parts of the heart itself and the chakra which is also working in the whole area of the lungs, which let us breathe the breath of life and be here on third dimension, in this body, in this time. And we take that light in and we move it deep, deep, deep within. And we see it forming a small little ball of gold. And we see that ball of gold also growing now. An orb, a brilliant, gleaming, golden orb that is going to also fill this chakra area and anchor itself here where it is always going to be now. So we will always be in this transformed place with our emotional nature, which will help us love ourselves and love all of creation. And that is our true nature, this love. Good. And this will continue. This light will be with you. That orb will always be with you. But this light, that downpouring golden light that we can now focus on again, that's coming within us and moving all around us, this will continue to assimilate and will be surrounding you. As we now focus our awareness into our feet and feeling the floor under our feet, bringing ourselves firmly into the present time, here and now, knowing that beautiful light is with us. And when you're ready, open your eyes. Okay, go back.
Wow, I never thought a spaceship could feel so good. Shellie, that was really, pardon the word, delightful.
Good.
That was really good. And I'm feeling that however this is going to unfold differently than I had thought because of that meditation. Thank you very much. One of the things that I love about you as a friend is that you have this historic sense of so much that goes on in the world and from whence it really comes.
I love that. I'm fascinated.
I know you are. And that's why I think the first thing I want to ask you about is, what about this? Where did this whole light at Christmas time thing, what are we talking about?
Well, we had the solstice. This year it was on the 21st. It's usually the 21st or the 22nd. And really, I mean, we live in this physical dimension right now, and the light of the sun is extremely important. Without it, there is no life on Earth. Not as we know it, anyway. So when we go through our seasons, I mean, the ancient days, people were very tuned into the natural occurrences and the rhythms of life. And, you know, the winter particularly being a very difficult time for people. We didn't have heat. We have this wonderful heat around us today. We have lights. So we don't connect as we used to the fact that we were going into winter. We had just what we harvested, and maybe if an animal happened to wander by, we might be able to get some extra nourishment over the winter. But people didn't always make it through the winter. And also, we were directed inside. We weren't out in the fields anymore. We were going within, wherever within was, our homes. And I think that people were much more aware also of the interactions. You know, one thing I think about coming from New York City, where I grew up, is, you know, you you meet 1 million people, billions of people maybe, in a lifetime now. Whereas if you lived in a small village, you met however many people were in that village, and if someone happened to show up, it was a big deal. It was so exciting, you know, the wandering minstrel coming through or something, because basically you had to get along with those people. You had to. And maybe in the summer it was easier because you were out a lot, you know. But in the winter we were all going in to that group house. It wasn't just, we weren't nuclear families then either, right? So the understanding of the need to become inner aware, I think, was there for people. And the honoring of things was very important. So as I was saying last night, we had a holiday that we celebrate as Halloween now, and it seems sort of fun. But it was a very serious time, and that was the Celtic New Year, because the harvest was in, and they were understanding that the seeds were going into the ground, and the seed being planted is the birth. Right? We know that in our physical bodies, women have the seed planted, and that begins life. So this was the new year, and it was also because, I guess, also people realizing that things were coming back again on a certain level, or hoping they would. The energy was directed towards the ancestors then, and appreciation and gratitude was given. And then we move a little further, and the light, which has been so great, had diminished and diminished and diminished until it came to that darkest time. And this was also, you know, kind of a moment where people were aware that the light had to return in order to quicken all the seeds and for life to begin again. What they would, in the northern cultures, what they would do is they would take that apple cider that they had from the great harvest of the apples, and they would go out into the woods and they would connect and commune with the evergreen trees, because the evergreen is what showed them that life continued during the winter time. This was the tree that showed that there was still green. And even there is actually something in the pines and the evergreens that can be eaten if necessary and sustain life. Teas can be made. And also, there's the pine particularly has a soothing effect on the respiratory and on the joints. So in the winter you get cold and stiff, and so this was a very important tree. It was connected to the sun in their way of thinking because it was still green. It was able to take the light and continue. So they would pour out, they would nourish this tree with their apple cider. This was their, and they would hang shiny objects that were going to the light of the sun on the tree. This was an honoring. And it was a giving. So we watched the sun come back, and that's why they constructed things like Stonehenge and the Mayan temples, so that they would receive certain moments. Sunlight would penetrate. That was a promise to them. This was a gift. The light returns. Okay? And this was the time that we were experiencing. So now the gifts are given. And so we turned it into material gifts being given. But, you know, and that's okay, because that's an honoring, if it is an honoring, of people that are lights in your life, right? But it's also that we are to give the gift of ourselves and that light, that heart energy, that light within us, which we needed to do to sustain each other. And we forget that now. You know, we're so outer directed. The more technology we have, the harder it is for people to go in and remember. So that's why maybe a talk like this is a good talk, because people are still needing that.
but they can't necessarily always see that that's what they need. It's because
they're distracted.
Well, distraction has become the external instead of the internal. The fact that we have this artificial light, the fact that we have the artificial warmth, makes it very difficult for people to want to find light or warmth. And just how then did that become, how do you think it became this?
Well, because, you know, you had, well, this mythology, again, I say a mythology, but I don't mean that in a demeaning sense. I mean that because it holds, mythologies hold powerful archetypal truths. And this particular truth that came in, which was bringing in another level, really, from some of the others, which is that love energy, that heart energy. Like in some of the esoteric traditions, they call Buddha the elder brother. He's from the mental. He was enlightening the mind, and that's what we did when we did our meditation. We started out with knowing awareness, and then we went into our heart for our emotional awareness, and that is like the teaching that came next. Yeah. So this understanding, you know, you can't totally take away what everybody is doing, right? I mean, you can't just divorce people from their traditions and say, okay, this is your new tradition, you can't do anything. You know, and actually, when Christianity spread into the northern Celtic regions and even into the Native American regions of the United States, I remember one of my Native American teachers telling me, we really loved that baby Jesus and the Mary, you know, we really loved that because that's an archetype we can go into and we can understand this purity and this love and this nurturing and this heart energy. So you can bring that to people. But in order to not get too much of a rebellion in this new thought, they incorporated the holiday festivals that were already being done for centuries and centuries. You know, you didn't want to not have your veneration of the evergreen. You know, we red and green, red and green, red and green, right? Red and green. This is, what is this? This is the holly. And the holly was, you know, having its berries and very powerful. And holly is a protection plant in the herbal lore tradition. So the holly berry, you know, around this time, protection, because it was a difficult time for people. Also, the colors red and green represent the male and the female, with the red being the Mars energy of the male, the dynamic energy, and the green being the receptive feminine energy of Venus, the female. Okay? So we were trying to balance, we talked about that a little bit last night. Connie read a beautiful piece on the Archangel Gabriel. It was the messenger angel, right? And about the balancing of the male and the female, and we did that in our own field. We have that magnetic and dynamic in our field. And sometimes we extend too much of that dynamic, and sometimes we take in too much in the magnetic. So that's why we clear it and bring it back to harmony and balance. So these colors are also reminding us. These are messages. You know? If we're open, the messages are received.
So could you say that this whole idea of Christmas time and the light, you know, the whole birth archetype, that whole symbolism, could you say that pretty much what we're doing is we're being asked to awaken, that it's not a birth that you carry from infancy till adulthood, but rather that it's a call to awaken and know? Would you say that that would be it?
I think that's how I experience it myself, maybe, because I'm not a baby now. I don't like to think that I blew it, you know.
So what's the darkness then? How would you, you know, like to me, the darkness is, I suppose I can share a story now. The darkness for me this past fall has been pretty heavy. And I don't know why it's been pretty heavy, but with the death of my kitty, it really amplified all the loss that I had had this year. I lost my home, I lost financially, I lost a lot of things. I gave away a lot, and the darkness that was in me was pretty heavy. And I thought I was a person who was awake. So awakening is not something that you're on and off.
No,
it's like the rising of the sun and the setting of the sun. And so this was just another, and I don't like to think in terms of levels, another vibratory wake up, you know, a higher frequency that I can tune to. And I had to do the old-fashioned inward search. I had to go into that dark space.
Yeah, that's okay.
And I had to awaken again. I had to awaken and see that light. And this season has so touched me in that way. I've got a new kitty. And what a good teacher that little kitty is. And how things manifest and flow and ebb so that this awakening, this birthing of this light within can happen. So that we can, your message is so powerful to go back from whence it comes and to bring it into this present moment. To have that light and to know that the sun rises but it also sets. It's like anyone who touts, I am awakened, I'm enlightened. I actually want to read something. Some of you may know the man named Carl Jung. He has a quote that I really like a lot, and I'm going to read something also from Mark Nepo. This little piece is entitled Lighting Our Way, and the quote from Carl Jung goes, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, by making the darkness conscious." And I really like that. If Jung is right, then, perhaps paradise is no more than seeing the light forming in the dark. Perhaps being awake is paying attention to the ongoing moment of life that we so often take for granted. That moment, like conception, like a seed cracking open, that is happening even as I'm reading this. Yet, as a headlight grows filmed by driving through all kinds of weather, the gift by which we perceive gets covered by experience. And our ability to see is diminished until we clean the gift. This is a lifelong process, one that never ends but always begins. So the care of one's being is imperative and continuous, as simple and hard as wiping the residue of experience from your mind and your heart. Letting your original face again light the way. I'm going to pause here for a moment and ask you each to smile. Because that is the best light that we can give on a day-to-day basis. Though, like scratching the middle of your back, we often need each other to regain our sense of oneness. It helps here to tell a Sufi story about a thirsty man. This thirsty man follows this muddy stream into a cave. He carries a lantern and holds it before him. He finds the clear source which he can drink from. When feeling muddied and troubled, we must not drink from the mud, but trace the source carefully, carrying the lantern of our spirit before us. We must enter the darkness of our troubles if we are to drink clearly again from the source. This making of the darkness conscious and compassion is swaying in your small light, near others too troubled or muddied to see the way. Sit quietly with your eyes closed and feel the light of spirit in every cell. As you inhale, feel each cell enlighten. As you exhale, feel a slight increase of light around you. During your day today, when you're feeling troubled, or tomorrow, or any of these. Stop. Breathe slowly. Carry your lantern and light your way.
That's so beautiful, and what I wanted to say about now is I feel that we're all needed now. I mean, more than ever.
Mm.
And at the same time, there's so many more awakened people that it's so wonderful, that this consciousness, and as the more we do this, and the more we stand in this, and the more we release of the darkness, the greater this energy grows. And I am we were talking about this, very optimistic. So optimistic. I feel so good. I've never felt this good.
Share what you were talking about last night over dinner, that whole idea of not letting people stand out, to bringing people in. We're talking about the community.
Okay.
This is very powerful.
Well, we ran into this wonderful person at the co-op when we were going for lunch, and we were talking about how the times are going to get kind of intense. Maybe they'll get geographically intense. Nobody really knows, but there's a lot of thoughts out there. So he was saying that this area specifically where we happen to be, which I won't name because then everybody will come. No. This is the issue. That's the issue.
Yeah, that's what
this area, and it is said in the Golden City that we're in that we are going to be helping people heal into the new paradigm in this area. And he was talking about how people were going to be immigrating into this area as things happen in other parts. And the issue is, how do we hold that? And I'm glad you mentioned that, because the old paradigm consciousness is to get a gun and protect your stuff. This is the way that most people are feeling. And I said to him, well, what would happen if we understood this and we were prepared for that to happen? And instead of greeting the person with fear, we greeted them with acceptance. And we said, okay, you can take this material and you can create yourself a place here. And now you have to help us with this garden or this whatever, but you'll be fed and all is well. Welcome. What if we welcomed? And to me, that's the new energy. That's the way to hold it. That even that lack of fear, this is something that the yogis have always taught. This is not a new idea. It's just that I feel that we might be ready to actually hear it and embody it now. So that instead of saying, well, we've got the food. I mean, the truth is, and I was saying, one of the reasons I selected this area was I knew that there was water and there's a lot of food here. And I was thinking about moving to another part of the country, and I thought, things happen, it's going to be harder to be there, be easier to be here. But I mean, I think we have to create that willingness to share that and stand in that feeling.
To take the light that we're talking about birthing today and taking that and expanding it. Again, I think in terms of frequency. So it's like if there was a luminous frequency, it's like turning that light up so bright that people are not going to want to fight,
right,
but rather come into the light. And we've talked about light so much, and as I, in my own personal work, began to get lighter, it actually feels lighter.
Yes,
physically. My body feels less heavy and grounded, and I just feel lighter in how I walk and how I talk and how I feel. When the light does shine from me, it feels different than when I'm in my darkness.
Yes.
And I know it shows.
Well, in the meditation, we talk about how, thought creates energy and energy follows thought. And wherever thought is held, and energy is focused. So when we start to take, the darkness is creating also. And the darkness creates things in our body, you know, it impacts energetically. And it it's the thing that we're giving out unconsciously that creates events around us and interactions and situations. So the more we, hold our lantern up for ourselves, not just for other people to find the source, but for us to find the source. We have so many tools now. We're so blessed with different ways that, each of us are attracted to certain ways. And that gives us the ability to take that energy and focus it somewhere and know that that's creating.
Yeah, and I'm feeling that the story that I shared with you is certainly my story of awakening and birthing the Christ light for myself this Christmas. I guess I would ask that with the stories we've shared today and the stories that you carry after today, that you think about how actually birthing that light is nothing more than saying it's always there. And that birthing that light doesn't have to be limited to Christmas time. That birthing that light is a matter of saying when it's dark to know that there's so many sayings we have. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, maybe I'll get it and maybe the light will go on. We have all these things that we say and yet take so for granted as we've moved into electricity and heat. And maybe electricity and heat won't be around, and maybe the whole idea of this story is so that we remember. We remember that what we seek, we already have. So, I guess I'd like to ask if there's anything else you'd like to share about birthing this Christ light within, the Buddha light within, the light that is always here, the light of the heavens, the light of our Creator, the light of our being. I also believe we asked to be here during this time. And this is just a reminder of what we already know. So.
I'm perfectly content right now, but if there's anybody in the group that's here that wants to add something or ask something, this is a good time.
Now, this is a good time to ask a question or share a story of light, if you have one.
They're receptive. They're not dynamic.
I'm going to say a little closing meditation. Mother, Father, God, thank you for this time of remembrance, this time of celebration. Throughout the planet, many are lighting this day. In the name of Christ, Christ is light. Many are lighting candles. In Judaism, that is also a symbol of reminding and remembering. May we take this birth light within, knowing that it's always there, and knowing that birthing the light is knowing that the darkness is there. For it takes a very bright light to cast a dark shadow, and the shadows are only reminders of why we've chosen to come. And so it is. And namaste.
Namaste. Thank you.
Thank you all.